Okay, we're back. Welcome to another edition of the American Scouser podcast. This is your host Hooch tonight. With me, I have Gordon. We're going to be doing a quick recap of yesterday's events at the new camp. Um, so I'll start off by saying I think that we played well with a few bounces here and there. It definitely could have been a different result. It's going to be a tough ask going back to Anfield, having to go back 3-0. But based on the chances we created yesterday, I can't see a reason why we can't at least threaten that. Um, I think it's definitely big that we get out and get a goal early because if we go down 4-0 and we have to get to 5, I don't think that's possible. But at 3-0, the way we played and the chances we created, I think there's an outside shot. There's a shot. And as we know, Anfield's a magical place on your game nights. So with that, Gordon, what did you think about yesterday's game?
Yeah, pretty much the same sentiments that you have. Obviously, the final result did not speak for the game. We played much better than 3-0. Probably deserved 2-1. The game could have been 2-2. We had enough chances. I think the game was pretty much summed up at the end of the night with the ball at the feet of our most faithful scorer, and he just rings it off the post. I think that pretty much summed everything up. But yeah, definitely agree with your statement that going back 3-0 isn't awful. It's definitely not over, but we have to be the ones in charge from the beginning. If we let an early goal up, that little hill becomes a mountain. And against a team that closes down so quickly, pretty much shut up shop as early as they like, as Barcelona, it would be extremely detrimental to let them score first.
Yeah, like how you were saying, the ball's hitting off the post. The ball hits off the post, it lands right at Messi's feet, and he has a tap in. And then right after that, the ball lands at Salah's feet, and he hits the post. So there's a 2-goal swing, and I know online there's some questions about the officiating. That's all going to come into play, but you have to assume that in Barcelona they're going to get those questionable calls. And for the people that were complaining about Klopp's tactics and his lineup, which we'll get to in a minute, you still have to realize that Barcelona is a very good team, and you have to give them some credit. Whether or not Messi's free kick was warranted or not, if you saw some of the replays, it looked like he went up high on Fabinho and drew the call. But still, to put that ball in the upper 90 like he did from about 30 yards out just shows his class, and you do have to give him credit for that. But the main takeaway is we weren't blown off the ball. I mean, if you look at the stats, we had 53% possession. They had 47. We had 15 total shots with 4 on goal. They had 12 total shots with their 5 on goal. We had 5 corners to their 3. So on a different day with a couple of different bounces, we're going back to Anfield, drawing if not tied, or drawing if not ahead. So there's definitely hope in that. So tip your cap to Barcelona. I mean, they're professionals. They're one of the better teams of our generation. It just stinks that we have to come against them in the semifinals and not in the actual Champions League final. And I think this is almost, if you poll people across the board, this is a de facto final. I think they just don't have the faith in Ajax or Tottenham to be able to match up against us or Barcelona. So really, it does seem that whoever comes out of this tie ahead basically wins the Champions League.
Yeah, that could be the force behind Barcelona's coming out so hot. They obviously see something, um, and Messi definitely wants to lift another Champions League. Obviously, he always gets compared to Ronaldo. Ronaldo's out this year at the hands of Ajax. I think really underestimate Ajax at your own peril. They've knocked out Real Madrid. Obviously, Real Madrid is not the team they were last year. They've had their struggles. It really has not been a good season for them. But still, for such a young team to do that, especially one like Ajax, who's pretty much, I mean, they're a mixed bag. They're either extremely old or like Huntelaar or pretty young. And I mean, they knocked out Juventus as well. So um, it won't be a walkover. But yeah, I think that the house money is definitely on this side of the bracket. And it does think that we do have to meet them in the semifinals. But at the same time, um, being in this situation against Barcelona in the semifinals, I mean, I take this every single year. I mean, it's good. I think they were saying that Camp Nou was like the first time that it was a sellout crowd this season. So, I mean, everybody was up for it.
Yeah, it was definitely an electric atmosphere. And I'm gonna get your thoughts real quick. I've been reading some comments online about Suarez celebrating his goal against the former club. But depending on how he fall, it's a frowned upon thing. But I don't think he went above and beyond to show up Liverpool. And it's not like he just went to Barcelona last season or halfway through this season. I mean, he's been gone for a few years now. And in the heat of the, I know, like they compare him to Salah, who Salah didn't score or he didn't celebrate last year against Roma. But I think it's a different thing with Salah compared to Suarez. Like I said, Salah just transferred the season before. Suarez has been gone a few years. It's not like he didn't talk to players. He just celebrated. It was a great goal. I mean, it was a great cross in. He did well to get on the end of that with his slide, and he was able to put it past Allison. What's your thoughts on that? The people calling out Suarez for being disrespectful to his former club.
Yeah, that's to me that's totally fine. Like you reiterated, he's been gone for a while. Another thing to note is he left on really good terms. He wanted to, and he definitely could have left the year before. He gave us one more year at the ask of his captain. He graciously accepted. He was inches away from lifting a title for us. Absolutely pivotal in that last season. And he left on a good note. And Suarez is the type of player who he plays to score. It really, he does have some loyalties, but he loves glory. He just enjoys scoring. It's his favorite thing to do. He just wants to get on the ball. Put him in any shirt on the face of the planet. I mean, he leaves next year, Barcelona, goes somewhere else, and scores against Barcelona. I would be fine with him celebrating. You could definitely see that. It doesn't bother me at all.
Oh no, yeah, because I'm with you. How he left, I mean, he could have quit on the team, but that last season, I mean, he gave everything. I think he had 30 or 31 goals, so it wasn't like he just he slept off through the season just to get through his contract. I mean, he did put everything out there to help us win. So I don't have an issue with it. And like I said, it was a great goal, and to go up 1-0, it'd be different if it was a goal to put them up 4 or 5-0, and he celebrated. But 1-0 in front of 100,000 people. I mean, I think anybody with a pulse or anybody that's human would just celebrate like he did. I mean, like he raised his hands, he played to the crowd, didn't taunt Liverpool at all. So I'm completely okay with that. I mean, you're at the end of the game. It's end of the day. It's a game, and you're supposed to have fun. And I think that's just. I mean, really, he's a big kid out there playing. You could disagree with maybe some of his tactics and his chippiness, but that's how he is. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, no matter what the situation. And that's what made us fall in love with him at Liverpool was how he played.
Definitely.
So it's just yeah, as long as he didn't do nothing disrespectful to the club, which I don't think he did, he just celebrated a great goal, and that should hopefully be under of it. I'm sure he'll get booed when he comes to Anfield as well as Coutinho will, but that has to be expected. But as far as people going out of the way to say, don't ever cheer for him again, and if you have a Suarez shirt in your closet, you should burn it, I just think that's totally ludicrous.
Yeah, that is a little bit too extreme. And like you said, I mean, it's semifinals, Champions League at home, opening goal after pretty much what was a dominant Liverpool in the opening 20. Obviously, you were saying we're going to go over tactics here in a little bit, um, but his goal kind of changed the game, changed the shape of the game, and obviously he does play with a ton of emotion. So the way he scored was fantastic. So I would have celebrated myself.
Exactly. So speaking of tactics, what was your thoughts on the formation in the lineup? I was surprised to see Gomez play, and I thought if you were going to play him in yesterday's game, you might have had him in the middle with Van Dijk and had Trent on the outside, and with Bobby being out, that you wouldn't have assumed his replacement would have been Naby. So what did you think on the lineup and the formation that Klopp deployed yesterday?
Yeah, I'm still not sure if I'm angry about it or if I'm just shocked. It was definitely when they released the lineup an hour before the game. Um, I was not sure what to expect. I thought there was a possibility of being a back three with maybe Robbo pushing up um, as almost a winger instead of a wing back. Um, but I mean, it's sort of in the beginning, it sort of worked. Having Genie dropping in, it looked sort of like it was starting as a diamond, maybe like a 4-4-2 with a little diamond in the middle, because Genie was dropping back. But I think that was more he felt more comfortable. He was getting a nosebleed way up high, but he started to really get into the game. He definitely was part of that build-up that led to that amazing Milner shot tipped wide. So it sort of worked out, but honestly, I'm not sure. There's got to be something else. I feel Trent's not be out there, especially if you have Robbo on the other side. So it's not like you're worried about width because I don't think you would have put Robbo on the other side of the field if you were worried about the stretching the game out too much and leaving too much of exposure. But maybe he just felt that Barcelona was going to try and play in, and they were going to squeeze the top three of Coutinho, Suarez, and Messi into the middle, and maybe that was his goal, was just to kind of just choke him out. But I think Gomez was at fault for a couple of bad passes. So it just, I mean, I think if we would have snuck one in, it was at 75 minutes, it was 1-0. If we would have snuck one in, we would be calling this a masterclass lineup. And I just think the way it ended 3-0, people are going to pick holes in whatever lineup you put out there.
Yeah, I have an issue with it because at this point, you're with Bobby being out, you're kind of at a loss in that position. So you try something off the wall that Barcelona hasn't seen. Well, any team for that fact of the matter hasn't seen us deploy. And like you said, it did seem to work in the beginning. The only issue I kind of take with that is that you have Milner in the midfield instead of Hendo, and the fact that the way the form Hendo's been on, and the fact that he's your captain doesn't make the starting 11 in a Champions League semifinal. It begs the question: does Klopp have total faith in him going forward? It just seems like one of those. It wasn't like it's you're starting like even like Firmino or Salah or somebody like that ahead of Henderson. You're starting Milner ahead of Henderson, and with him being your captain, it almost I don't want to say it's a lack of faith, but it's almost one of those matches where your captain should be starting in this situation, especially with the form he's been on in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that again was baffling, and a lot of people then said, well, he came on, and then it showed why he didn't start because he pretty much the whole tempo changed when Naby went off. Henderson was kind of sloppy, a couple bad tackles, some missed passes. Next thing you know, Suarez got one in the back of the net. But honestly, it's a sub at 24 minutes. Anybody coming off the bench is not fit. They're not warmed up. And at the pace that the game was already being played in that opening 20, it's really difficult if you've ever played soccer and you haven't played football, you've been out and you come in the middle of the game, and you're not used to the pace. You get left behind a little bit. It takes 5-10 minutes for you to get into it. So I don't fault Henderson for that. I don't think that you can point a finger at him. It was just unlucky. It was a situation with Keita going out. But yeah, definitely it makes you wonder what Klopp's feeling about the captain if he's not willing to play him. Again, I mean, it might have been a rest issue, but it's a semifinal away against a huge team. I mean, it's an interesting one. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they went into it with the understanding that he'll come on in the second half. Just maybe Keita or whoever gives Milner just runs the whole first half, and then they do a for sub at halftime, and maybe like you said, the plans to push around with Naby's injury. But yeah, it was definitely interesting because it seemed like Henderson was just getting on form and just starting to find a rhythm, playing more of an attacking role, and then for him not to feature, it has to play with his mind a little bit. Like, all right, you played me as a number 6, and then I was getting hammered on for that, and then I started to play more in an advanced role, more in an offensive role. I'm starting to find my foothold in the season. I can't get a start as the captain. And it seemed like, like maybe you said it was a rest issue, but he seemed fully fit when he came on. He didn't seem like he was dragging or anything. So it just made me wonder their plans going forward. Maybe he was a more of a more of a cog in the machine before, but maybe Kopp has different plans going forward. Maybe he likes a more energetic or more skillful player in the midfield. I don't know, like you said, it'll be something to keep an eye on going forward, though, for sure, because you have to worry about him now. Like, where's his mindset at? Saying, "Hey, I've been your captain on what 4 years since Gerard left, and I can't get a start in arguably the biggest game of the season."
Yeah, and I think that one of the points you made in there was just he started to become a more influential attacking player, and I think it was obvious that Klopp wanted a more solid back. So I think it may have just been a mental thing for Henderson himself. I mean, to have pretty much released the reins on him and let him go free an attacking role, and then all of a sudden after he really finds his form to sit him down and say, hey, for this game I need you to go back to playing defensive. I mean, that could definitely play on a player's mind. And then when you're used to playing a certain way and you're feeling good playing a certain way, you start to drift. And a team like Barcelona really can't open up those holes in the middle because they will definitely exploit them. And we saw that in this game. And I think that maybe starting Fabinho and Milner was that indication that instead of one at the back, you wanted two at the back in the mid, kind of a small triangle in the middle of the field there, and just felt that Naby was more tenacious going forward and could link the play up for Genie to play it wide. But yeah, other than it being a possible mental thing for Henderson instead of changing it around, I wouldn't be able to tell you because honestly, Henderson's been a utility belt for us for the last, like you said, 5 years in that captaincy role. He's pretty much played every position in midfield for us. So I don't think he'd have a problem. I mean, if Klopp sat down and said, "Hey, you can play in the Champions League semifinal at the Camp Nou against Barcelona, but you're going to have to play defensively," I think he would have bit your hand off for it. So it'll be interesting. We'll have to. I guarantee he starts against Newcastle. So we'll have to see if he's up for it again. Obviously, he just lets it roll off his back.
I mean, I think he will. You said he's played every midfield position this year. I think one of the matches he even started at right back for us. So he does seem to accept any role that you offer to him. It just adds another layer to why he wasn't picked to start in this match. Especially if you needed him to be defensive, he's almost like that guy that you would want back there since he played like that since really Klopp's taken over. And like you said, with Naby playing more of the attacking midfielder role where he was given free range to go up and try to make something happen. If you're going to have, I don't know, if you're going to deploy that, and you would figure maybe Hendo would be a better choice than Milner to play back. But yes, it's definitely something to keep the eye on going forward. What did you make of the Messi quasi foul on Fabinho that led to the free kick? Looking at the replays, it definitely looks like you went to pile on him. But is it just one of those things that's messy? That's just like LeBron James or Kevin Durant in the NBA. 90% of the time, if they look like they get fouled, that's how the refs are going to call that. The replay made it look a lot worse than it was, and unfortunately, it did lead to the third goal, which could be the nail in the coffin. Do you have any issue with that without the referee consulting VAR to review that foul?
I would normally not have a problem with it, just because he's a player. He's going to go down. Same with I would expect that Mane and Salah, when you're getting hacked all game and you're being frustrated, that you're going to try and look for those. You're going to create those situations, especially given their size and the size of Fabinho. Obviously, it's a super unfair matchup. So you're not going to win the ball in the air, so might as well go in and try and see what you can win. Worst case scenario, you get the foul going the other way. But I didn't like it because he kind of annoyed me yesterday. I mean, he was rolling around on the Milner challenge early on. Milner gives him a shoulder and he forces a roll 3 or 4 times. I mean, the guy's got enough talent. He doesn't need to be doing that. It kind of put a little black stain. I love the guy. Obviously, in everybody in that watches football knows you either like Ronaldo or you like Messi. You don't like both of them. And so watching him do that, I mean, it kind of put a little black mark in my mind. And seeing him, that was just icing on the cake for me. I was fed up with him at that point. So under normal circumstances, if he played a fair game, I would have definitely accepted it. But I mean, he was looking for the cheap foul. He several times got in the ref's face, holding the motion for a yellow card. I just really don't like seeing that, especially from a player that doesn't need to do that. I mean, he's absolute class. He just does not need to stoop at that level. So it did piss me off a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, especially how you said it. In the beginning of the match with the Milner shoulder he threw into him. That was barely a split second after the ball went out. It wasn't super late. It wasn't cheap. Had the ball still been in play, that would have been a fair foul, I feel, or fair play. But like you say, he threw himself to the ground, was trying to buy a yellow card. And that's just, if you're coming through the middle like that, you have to expect that. But yeah, I agree with you. He has too much talent to be trying to beg. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt 90% of the time. I don't feel like he needs to ask for it or beg for it, because especially when he's going to get most of the 50-50 calls. But still, like I said earlier, he put that ball in the upper 90 like that. That just shows his class. But it goes to your point that he has that talent. He doesn't need to rely on any more help from the refs than he already gets to aid his ability.
Yeah, I believe stats, and obviously stats are stats, they're only on paper, but I think there was only like a 5% chance of him putting that ball in the back of the net from that distance. So I think he's probably one of three players in the world that could have done that, pulled it off. And the audacity, too, to have to do that just shows that he's one of the best in the world, if not the best.
Yeah, like I said, if that foul would happen under different circumstances, you just tip your hat to him and say, you know what? I mean, what can you do? Like you said, a 5% chance maybe, and it was perfect. I mean, two inches to the right, Allison makes that save or hits the wall. It's just one of those goals where you have to sit back and just like, you know what? I mean, like you said, best in the world. What else can you do in that situation other than just to tip your cap and say good job? So little question for you. Um, Going into this weekend with us against Newcastle, which we should get points on, and then with City playing Leicester, it's a two-part question. What would you rather have? Would you rather have us win on Tuesday against Barcelona for nothing and advance to the Champions League final, or have us beat Newcastle on Saturday and have Leicester get a result against City on Monday?
Oh man, I you know in terms of for the team, for myself, for the fans and the city of Liverpool, um, I would have to say a result at Leicester. Obviously, we would still have work to do against Wolves, who are fighting for their own Europa League spot. Um, but I think that means more. That would mean more to the city. But hell, if you want to make a stamp on a world stage, going down 3-0 away from home to Barcelona and coming back and advancing without the need of extra time, as I think that's probably the best way to do it. Everybody would take you seriously. I think it would definitely help our chances um, in the transfer department. I mean, people want to play in those big games. Every player wants to be a part of something like that. But for us, I think it'd be better to win the league.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. I think, I mean, for sure, you go out Tuesday and you do everything you can to win. But it's almost like, even if we would win that match and lose the tie, but Leicester beat City, I think, like you said, for the city to be able to win a Premiership for the first time in 30 years, that would just, on a season, with the way that we've gone back and forth with City, I think that would. I don't know if it'd be a bigger statement, but I think it would just show this team's resolve. And it would, how we talked in the previous podcast, if we get the monkey off our back and win the first one, it could be a run of 3 or 4 and 5 or 6 years. And I think with that, we would attract the better players and champions, like back to back years in the semifinals and the Champions League, if not the final, if we can pull out a miracle against Barcelona. I think either way, it would show our resolve in that Liverpool's back. But just to win a league, the way the season's gone, and to be able to beat City, I think it would definitely. I think I'm with you. I would definitely take a Leicester result on Monday and us be able to win the league. Just based on the competition that City's given us all year. The second part of that question is, what do you think has a better chance of happening, though? Us being able to beat Barcelona 4-0 on Tuesday, or Leicester being able to get a result against City on Monday?
Well, I think I honestly, this is going to sound awful, but I think Leicester getting a result at City. This is really weird. I'm writing about this in a blog that I'm going to release tonight. But the last time we played Newcastle, we beat them 4-0. It was on Boxing Day. City played Leicester that same week, and they dropped points to Leicester. And it was the second week in a row they dropped points, and we actually leapfrogged them in the table. So it's happened in this exact way. So I think that has more of a chance of happening. Also, Rodgers owes us, and if he doesn't feel like he owes us, then he's a piece of shit, because that guy he put us through some trauma for a couple of years there. So I think that he'll be wanting a result. I mean, he came in late to the season. He's definitely still wanting to improve something. I know Leicester's safe. But the guy's job is not. It's obviously in flux. They've been looking. That position is still sort of shaky. He definitely wants to solidify his position there and say that he still deserves to be in the Premier League. So he's got a statement to make, and maybe a little bit of chip on his shoulder against City, because they did lift it the year we lost. So I'm hoping for that. I think that's more probable, but anything's possible in a European night at Anfield. So we'll see. But it just sucks, because I think the Barcelona game's in our hands, and we can only pray and hope that the Leicester game goes the way we want it to.
Yeah, but it almost seems like the way the Premier League is going this year, with things coming full circle. With us with that match against Chelsea, of course, Gerrard had to slip in 14, and then we're almost in the same boat this year, and we beat them 2-0. And then with Rodgers coming back, there's really no rhyme or reason other than him wanting to manage it in Premier League, but he left a great job at Celtic. For him to come back is almost, I don't know if you want to say it's destiny or fate that he comes back and takes points off of City for us the same weekend that we beat Rafa Benitez. There's just too many, like the 6 degree separation. It just seems like there's too many things pointing in our direction that it just feels like if it's going to happen, it would be Brendan Rodgers taking a result against City, and then us taking points against Rafa Benitez, and then we win the league by a point or two. I mean, I don't want to say it's written in the stars, but it kind of feels like it's going. It looks that way, the way the season's going.
Oh yeah, if it finishes that way, then the DVDs that they sell of this season will definitely have that narrative of how the stars align. The weekend and the end, literally like the second to last game of the first half of the season, both teams played the same teams. Leicester takes points off City. We smash the crap out of Newcastle. We leapfrog City to go at just after Christmas at the top of the league. And then the same thing happens in the second half of the season. I mean, that's definitely what they're going to be writing. Now, what happens, but if it does happen, then I guarantee that's the angle that they'll go for it. So it definitely seems like it, but I'm not huge into astrology, but I might be if this happens.
Definitely, for sure. So put a bow on this. We'll probably definitely chat after this weekend's events. Any final thoughts on yesterday, or what we can hope to see on Saturday or even Tuesday?
Yeah, my biggest thing for next Tuesday is Barcelona's went into shape when Semedo came on at 60 minutes. They changed the shape to a 4-4-2, and it really stifled the game for us. We couldn't get past them. We couldn't pass through that four in the midfield. Um, so honestly, I think the Klopp should spend this weekend, trying to figure out how the hell we can break down a team that plays 4-4-2, because I guarantee that's the way that Ernesto Valverde will set up against this next week. And if we can't break it down early, then we're not going to break it down at all. So that's the only real thing I noticed. I mean, I think that Barcelona's got themselves a hell of a coach, and I think that he noticed that. And if he doesn't set up that way at Anfield, then maybe it was just luck they beat us 3-0.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting looking ahead to it. Whether or not they come out to try to play to get that fourth goal to try to put us away, or they just say, "Hey, 3-0, that's a pretty decent enough lead." But then they risk the fact that if we get an early goal and that crowd starts rocking, then all of a sudden the pressure goes back to them. I mean, they did it against PSG. They had a huge comeback at home, so they've been on the other side of that. I just hope that, for our sake, that maybe we get that early goal and we have something to cheer for the whole match. I just don't want to get to the point where we lose, we go down 1 or 2, and then this tie ends up looking like how they did at United, and we lose 5 or 6-0 over the two legs, or even like a 5 or 6-1. I think that leaves a bad taste in our mouth. But I'd almost rather lose that way going for it, and then other than trying to just squeak by and maybe try to get to the three and force extra time. But it will definitely be interesting over the weekend with us on Saturdays, City on Monday, then us back on Tuesday. Be a fun 3 or 4 days for sure.
Yeah, if results go our way this weekend, I mean, there's going to be so much of a buzz in not just the city but in the players that maybe 4-0 in 90 minutes is not impossible. So we'll have to see. We might just ride all the good luck in.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a good point. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, if we get a good results Saturday and Leicester do us a favor Monday, I mean that. Oh, jeez, that stadium will be on fire on Tuesday, with us
Yeah,
at the top of the league, and then with Barcelona coming in, that'll be a great time and a great game to be at and a great game to watch. So with that, we're going to wrap up this edition. Check us out now. We're on YouTube. We're also on iTunes. I think the brag got us on TuneIn, and then we are looking to expand iHeartMedia, and we're also on Spotify. So great things are going on with us at American Scouser. We always appreciate your support. Like, share, give us feedbacks, follow. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys. And with that, up the Reds.
up the Reds. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.